Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Cars.com, Valvoline, and Goodyear. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome to our MotorWeek podcast number 8. We're glad to have you with us. And joining me are producer Brian Roberts.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Road test producer Brian Robinson.
Glad to be here.
And writer Shamit Choksi.
Hello, John.
Nice to have you all with us as well. We have so much to talk about. So let's get going with the place that Brian Roberts and I just came back from, and that is the 2009 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. And Brian, before I ask for your comments about the show, let me sort of make a judgment of my own. You know, I read a lot in the mass press how this was a somber event reflecting the tough automotive times. That really was totally incorrect. If anything, this event, while it was very toned down, you didn't have all the expensive reveals, and that's fine.
It wasn't as flashy.
No, it wasn't as flashy.
But there was lots of products.
And it was a pep rally atmosphere. Most everybody was there saying, you know, we're here, we're going to stay here, we're going to do better. There was a lot of camaraderie amongst the different brands. So I actually came away thinking it was probably one of the best Detroit auto shows I've been to in years.
Well, I think, you know, most people in the auto industry want to forget about 2008 with
we do.
plummeting sales, high gas prices, government bailouts. And I think the 2009 auto show was a way to kind of start things rolling again.
There also was a misconception in the general press that everybody was showing electric cars, meaning cars that run only on batteries. Couldn't be further from the truth. There was definitely an electric car theme, but it's the definition of electric. In other words, there were a few all-electric vehicles, but most of them have this new term attached now, extended range, or what I call advanced hybrids.
EREVs.
Which are vehicles that basically will use a battery and some kind of a generator, a gasoline or diesel generator, to keep the battery charged. So after you go a certain distance, you'll have some extra power. So with that said, you know, what knocked your socks off?
Well, you know, talking about the EREVs, Cadillac showed their Converj concept, which is basically a Volt dipped in gold. Cadillac's version of the sport coupe that's going to, you know, get 40 miles on pure electric. It's one of their concepts.
Now, that uses a small four-cylinder engine to extend that range to hundreds of miles. So it takes away this electric car anxiety that people talk about running low on power.
The Chrysler 200C, which
what a knockout!
Beautiful, beautiful car, and that, you know, that could be the new face of Chrysler to come, and sort of had the same had a 400-mile range with 40 miles under pure electric power as well.
I should say this 40-mile figure, you keep hearing it over and over again because that is basically what the average commute in and out of town is. But Ford went one better than that, didn't they?
Well, they announced in 2012 that the Fusion-sized model, maybe 100 miles.
And that's a pure electric car.
Yes, correct.
And they're developing that with supplier Magna. So that if they are able to do the 100 miles on pure electric power, that will be quite something. You know, some of the, you know, it's interesting. Even, you know, the Camaro made news with the announcement of the V6 300 horsepower that is going to be 27 miles per gallon. So I think the whole auto show was pretty much, a lot of the auto show had to do with, you know, more fuel efficient vehicles. And we're really only scratching the surface. Even though it was toned down, there were still more reveals here from all sorts of manufacturers. I
thought the Audi Sportback concept was just stunning, which is going to probably look like the new A7. Yes. So I thought that was just really nice.
Anything else that just jumped off the sand at you?
I think the Ford Taurus was a surprise.
Beautiful.
Beautiful car.
No rental car there.
No, absolutely not. You know, it's not as not so conservative, you know, family vehicle anymore. And I think that goes on sale sometime this spring.
And of course, the biggest news for current buyers of hybrids like the Prius, of course, were the new version of the Prius.
The third generation Prius, which is bigger, faster, more fuel efficient, gets 4 miles per gallon, better up to 50 miles per gallon.
That's the combined city highway
correct.
was 50, and that was a new benchmark under the new current rules.
One of the cool things was the optional solar panel ventilation system, which helps keep the interior cool when parked, which is pretty
And
neat.
that's a dedicated hybrid, meaning that there is no gasoline or diesel version, and there were two other dedicated hybrids shown, right? The new Lexus.
Honda Insight.
Now, the Honda Insight
was
and the
there.
new Lexus HS250H.
Yes, that's correct.
And having talked about hybrids, they are becoming very mainstream. Every manufacturer is talking hybrids in one way or another. But we've actually had a lot of experience now with the new Insight.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I'm going to turn to Brian Robinson, who spent more time behind the wheel with the new Insight than anybody else. Well, is this anything like the old Insight, the original one?
Not really. You mentioned mainstream. I think that's their main point was not so much to make an extreme mileage vehicle, but make one that's a hybrid that's anyone can afford. It's cheap. And also with packaging, they did a lot. They've got the battery so small now, it basically fits underneath the spare tire in the rear. So it's a normal car. It's hybrid that basically anybody can afford.
Now, this is a 5-door, 5-passenger car. I don't want anyone to be confused with the original Insight was a small 2-seater, 3-door. This is a real family car, right?
Yeah, it's similar to the Prius, 5-door, a little bit smaller.
But what about the shape? A lot of people have criticized some of the other brands' hybrids because they didn't look futuristic enough. They didn't make that mistake, did they?
No, it's certainly got that look to it. It's, love it or hate it, it is the most aerodynamically efficient design that they could make. So, there you go. Love it or hate it.
So what struck me about the interior is it's, again, very gee-whizzy like a computer game, but it's pretty hard. I mean, the plastics were kind of hard, but they had to do something to cut some corners because they want to come to market with this with a price less than $20,000.
They want it to be the least expensive hybrid.
Right. Yeah,
sold in America.
And that's a couple grand less than Prius, $3,500 less than the Honda Civic hybrid, and it's the same powertrain.
Correct. The Civic, you can get a few more options and make it a little more luxurious if that's what you want.
What was it like to drive?
It's kind of a cross between the Civic and the Fit. Not as fun as the Fit, but not exactly boring.
Was it slow?
It's no race car, but it gets off the line pretty good. And once you're rolling, it's pretty responsive. The electric motor seems to help you out more, in passing situations when you just jump on the throttle, more so than taking off on the line.
The big difference between the Insight and, say, the system that the Toyota Prius uses is that you don't get as much all-electric drive.
Correct, especially off the line. It's pretty much all motor. But once you get rolling, and you're on perfectly level surface or slightly downhill, then you can go pretty high speeds, just strictly electric.
It'll also be nice to see another hybrid on the road. I mean, we see the Prius all over the place.
Right.
It would just be cool to change up the landscape a little bit with the Insight driving around.
Yeah, I mean, it gets me that manufacturers that have done some very good hybrids, like the Ford Escape hybrid, have not gotten as much publicity because it doesn't look different. In other words, you're not advertising that greenness that you are with the Prius. Even Toyota hasn't been as successful with its other hybrids. So now there's a real competitor there, and there's a lot of predictions we're going to see a lot more future hybrids looking that way. Even the coming Chevrolet Volt looks pretty futuristic.
Yeah, we should mention the mileage. It's 40 city, 43 highway, which is obviously, I think people were looking for higher numbers than that. But as we mentioned in our road test, we drove it around shooting it all day, and without trying too hard, we got it, 50. Up into the 50s, so it definitely takes some effort to get the most mileage out of it.
It does things to tell you when you're driving right.
It helps. It's got a little backlit gauge that lets you know when you're driving, more efficiently, and it keeps the lifetime record of your fuel mileage. And then basically every time you turn it off, it tells you if you did a good job or if you need to do a little better next time.
Try a little harder.
A new form of Big Brother watching. Well, your conclusion: a hit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just the fact that on price alone, I mean, just to get them out there, a lot of people would like to get a Prius or something, but one, they're hard to find. Two, they're expensive, and here you go. Here's one for under 20. They plan on making as many of them as people want. So
I get questions all the time from folks who are saying, look, I really don't want something as complicated as a hybrid. Mm-hmm. And, hybrids are probably never going to be more than, say, 20% of the market. And that leaves an awful lot of the market out there for more conventionally powered cars. And some of them are not only reasonably fuel efficient, but an awful lot of fun to drive. And we're talking small cars here, and specifically about one of the best ones that we've come across recently, and that's the new Mazda3. And Shamit, I know you've got a lot of opinions about the Mazda3.
It's a great car. I mean, I know all of you will agree that the first generation Mazda3 is a tough act to follow.
Right.
I mean, it's just stylish and on every front. Well, what they've done here is they've kept the same essence and they've made the car better. It's an impressive follow-up. It's more aggressive and sporty on the outside. It looks sharper. We had a chance to drive the car up in Malibu, in the canyons of Malibu, and it's the same platform, but the suspension has been retuned, so it's a sharper drive. It's more, the handling's tighter. It's just
a fun little car to drive.
It is.
Isn't it?
It's a lot of fun, and so it has a huge fan base, but that fan base now is what they're gonna get is a better version of the car they already love.
Mm-hmm. It's got a really wild. They've done some wild styling. All these concepts we've seen the last couple of years from Mazda with this big grin on the front. It's on the Mazda3.
It's right there, and there's like the lines down the side just dive. There's just it's more sculpted. It's a very nice looking car.
It's a real premium small car.
Yeah.
Is it still sedan and hatchback, or?
The sedan is the one that they've been highlighting, but yeah, the hatchback is going to follow, and then of course the Mazda 3, the Speed 3 will also come out.
I'm already getting questions about the Mazda 3 Speed from a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it's definitely a big thing among enthusiasts. Performance enthusiasts. Inside, it spills over. The inside is more it's just sporty, more ergonomic. The seats have been beefed up a little bit just to sort of promote more spirited driving. Nobody's going to complain about this thing. If you like the first one, you're going to like the second one, and it's going to get the attention of people who are not Mazda 3 fans right now. So this is a true achievement for them.
Going back to the North American International Auto Show for just a moment, since that basically is such a big show and so important. Now, Shamit and Brian Robinson, you guys were not at the show, but you saw a lot of the coverage. What was your impression from being removed from it about what happened there? Because obviously we were pretty close to it.
As you mentioned, everyone kind of portrayed it like it was a real downer, but I think times are tough. Everyone realizes that. I think it's more of a rally. Hey, let's all get together. Things are bad, but we need to do whatever it takes to make them better.
Shamit?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, there's a weirdness factor. I assumed that, it was a lot quieter over there. You guys are saying that it was somewhat energized, and when you hear things like, all right, well, Infiniti didn't show up, there 30% of the car manufacturers weren't there, you automatically assume that, man, that's pretty depressing.
I mean, Nissan and Infiniti weren't there, and I will say that I think they, probably should have been there, if for nothing else. Then they have some new product worth showing off. They could have brought their 370Z, and they were missed. But by and large, with the exception of some areas on the floor being turned into catering areas, which was pretty weird. We've never seen that before. It's always been a problem with space. You didn't miss anything. One of the vehicles that made a second appearance that we didn't know if they were going to do was Fisker. A year ago, Fisker showed up with a very expensive range extender hybrid, the Karma, and they said, we're going to build this car. This year they came back with a
production version. When it goes on sale in November, it's going to be the first mass-produced plug-in electric vehicle.
And it's going to have also a convertible version.
The Sunset, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The S for Sunset. And they're going to build it in Michigan. It's expensive. It's a $90,000 car.
Yeah.
But when you look at it next to, say, the Tesla, who was also back with a new vehicle, you think, well, maybe all of this move towards new powertrains is going to give some of these small coach builders a chance to show the big guys how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, one of my observations from the auto show was, I think this is the first time in a number of years there was no truck introductions.
Very few SUVs.
Very few SUVs. The new Cadillac SRX was there,
and Chevy Equinox,
and the 2010 second generation Equinox. But besides that, there wasn't really any more.
Should point out, and the Equinox is going to be the first crossover utility that's not a hybrid to get 30 miles per gallon on the highway.
Yeah, very impressive.
And that's because it has direct injection, which is pretty cool.
Well, in terms of small cars, Audi also announced the arrival of the A3, right? They're going to be bringing that out to the U.S. So, the small, more efficient cars are definitely on their way. And just so, the one thing I did forget to mention was that, we're talking about fuel efficiency. The Mazda3's fuel economy is up by as much as 10%. So on top of being more fun and energized, it's, save at the gas pumps.
Thanks, Shamit. Brian and Brian, around the office we call BR and BR squared. I want to thank also our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, who makes sure we come through loud and clear, our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, and, of course, our ever-ready producer, Michelle Parker, who brought in some great-looking cookies this morning. Thank you very much for joining us for our MotorWeek podcast, and we hope you'll hear us again here soon.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Cars.com, Valvoline, and Goodyear. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.